I always like to do recaps a little bit of what we're doing with this particular idea, transcendence. Always keep in mind your own experience to relate the idea behind transparency to your own experience through your life. There were lots of appetites we've all had. Humans, by nature, don't know. We're creators. So there's an inherent lack that drives us for particular appetites we want to explore. And no appetite is right or wrong. From the sexual deviant to the psychopathic or sociopath killers, to the nuns and priests that dedicate their lives to God, to the ones that get great educations and teach, to the politicians. It's all an unconditional playground. It's the lost garden of the gods. So we have these natural appetites, and a lot of them are learned as purpose, as what's taught from our generational ideas, our culture. We understand that. We've learned a lot about that. But the point about transcendence is understanding at some particular point, you're not going to be interested in these ideas any longer. We can all think back to our teen years. There were certain appetites we pursued, certain ideologies we wanted, and we've lost our appetites for those, our passions for certain things, the way we wore our hair, certain truths that we held on to, tired of holding up avatars. Or in this case, you've just learned it. That's why it's so vital. Is when you think about the ownership of a recognized belief system. The ownership is what takes it into your heart and gives you the experience of the vibrational relationship, not up here, but in the idea of you, the experience of all that is. Because see, what you're not doing is buffering the reality. Think about all the hypocrisies in the world right now. Think about what the fuck is going on in the world. Okay? It's not right or wrong, but you can see the chaos. You can see the hypocrisy. You can see the division. And they're all justified. And they all have reasons behind them. And they all have logic. And they all can be seen to be enacted. And these people are engaging in these worlds to understand themselves. Okay? So their appetites fulfill a lack. Our appetites are not fulfilling a lack. We're realizing that we're empty from our nature. So we must become what we are as the identity for the identity to be known, the fractal. Once it is known, you'll never want to know it again. Just like those childish things you put around. I would like you all to think about this. If you sat and learned first grade and you spent 18 fucking years in first grade, by somewhere around the third year, you might get a little antsy. Then you might talk yourself into hope. No, there's something else. But by the 5th or the 10th year, you go, there's nothing here for me. Okay, that's what we're talking about in a transcendence of belief. Once you understand it, there's nothing there for you. Humans hold on to identity. They cycle themselves. They give themselves purpose and reason. I'm a this, I'm a that, label. You know, it's very easy to label yourself with medical terms because humanity is infatuated with medical terms and the pills that fix them. So we get this wonderful game. It's identity. Okay, it's not right or wrong. You got to recognize. Become intelligent. Okay? So when you recognize a belief system and you see it and accept it, surrender to the recognition and then become the owner of it, that's how you get to know it. That's what gives it you the understanding by accepting it into your heart, owning it. And you don't avoid it. I have a severe amount of anger because I was betrayed. I have had many, many atrocities happen to me And from my view, then others might think, oh, it's okay. But there are no others. There has never been others. There is nobody else. There's only you and your universe, and the reflection is a possibility of you. The same entity from a different truth. That's it. So you don't assign externally. You understand that the outside is a reflection of potential from the inside. So if you are recognized with a belief system, it's a potential for you not to avoid it as humans do, push it away as humans do, cover it away, cover it up with drugs or excuses or reason or logic or avoidance. That's what you don't do. A master takes it into its heart and transcends that. The virtues that we spoke of will lead to that understanding. And as it sits in you, as my anger and my fear, most of it, guys, by the way, is fear. Don't fucking let your ego sell you you're not afraid. Take away everything you have secure and you'll be a scared chicken shit. Lose all your money, lose all your housing, and be naked and afraid in the world. Watch how much fear you'll have. And it can be stripped from you like fucking that. Because nobody is untouchable in this world of co-creation with the mass psyche of separation. Okay? Chances are very low if you have a high vibration, of course. You don't open the doors to those worlds. But you must understand that can all go away. So you must recognize your own fears and how your fears turn into reason and logic and avoidance and safety and security, posture, personality, putting it out there to avoid or control or maintain or excuse because you have emotions tied up in these things. So you're going to reason with it to satisfy the ego. Don't ever satisfy yourself. Don't ever talk yourself into a slow slumber of acceptance of what's happening. Look what happens to humans when they accept the fear. Look around. We've divided ourselves. So much so that the hate is becoming known. The atrocities of humanity are becoming very apparent. And no one's going to do anything about it because they're afraid. So you can't be afraid. You have to accept and surrender. So what happens? What happens to a belief system? What happens to a belief system that's taken into the heart? Well, it vibrates equal because it's totally accepted. Before, it's a thing, and then you're pushing against it. That's the resistance against your own attraction. The attraction is the recognition of what your truth is. You have a fear about an item. It's not about the item. It's not about description. That's an externalism. That's a cause and effect. No, it's about the truth that you have in you and the ability to look at a neutral, unconditional object, situation, no matter what it is, and assign it to fear. And then guess who experiences the fear? You. The anger, the frustration, the anxiety, the hope, the desire, the purpose of life, the need, the obligation as a parent or a sibling or a good worker. These are all identities. These are the experience of humanity. Gods don't lack. So we have to recognize our lack. Transcendence, once recognized, allows you to take that vibration into your heart. That's the reason for the acceptance. That's the reason for the surrender. My first fears recognized were angry. Why is this happening? What did I do? I didn't do this. All the excuses in the world. And then I realized, yes, I did. This is all me. Because I came here empty, I built a structure, and I've been running through that structure since I got here until I woke up, transcended to the point of enlightenment. And I understand the game fully. Not ascended, no, enlightened. Big difference. So that gives me an idea of a relationship when I accepted it into my heart. What happened to that vibrational truth of anger? It vibrated into me, and I let it sit in me. I let the anger well in me. I let the fears well in me. I let the let the ideas of scenarios play out of fear in my life and what's going to happen to me if I don't do this, if I don't do that, because I'm obligated to. You know? What happened to the vibration, it became unified because it was a condition, and then it became an unconditional relationship. So therefore, I had no ability to see that reality anymore in the same relationship. Now I saw it in an unconditional experience that gives me a relationship that doesn't take me into a polarized emotion. So I can't be afraid or angry or guilty or anxietal or hopeful, prideful, arrogant about anything anymore, because I've transcended the human relationships. I understand them now. I had to take them. I had to own them. I had to become them. People think you're going to become that if you do that. You accept your anger, you're going to be an angry person. No. Surrender to it and own it, pardon me, and you'll transcend it. It takes time. It takes 5, maybe 6 times of doing it whenever it comes up, and then you'll see the break. You'll understand how it's less valuable. Before you would react, and now you're like, I just can't react to this because I understand it now. I've gained the intelligence of the relationship. This is not something to be looked at any longer as a polarized truth, because it's no longer valued from me as a polarized truth. Just like you learned 1 + 1, you're not going to keep trying to learn 1 + 1. There's no value in learning 1 + 1 again because you fucking know it. Once you know fear and all of its spidered out the legs or spider-webbed possibilities that induce fear, once they're all understood, once you understand, you can't be afraid anymore. I'm not afraid anymore. I've had fears and guilt and anxieties and all these things because that's what I was taught. That's why I was less than. I was afraid to do this and I get in trouble, and then I do this, and then there were consequences, and my mind just created all of these wonderful, horrific scenarios in my mind that made me anxietal and afraid and unhealthy and just behaviors of just pure stupidity out of fear. They're not stupid from at that point. At that point, they were my truth. But as an observer of my own evolution, those were things that I would no longer do. So I've evolved my beliefs. That's what transcendence does. That's what you have to see in yourself. That when you recognize a belief, no matter how much fucking pride you have, shut the fuck up and be humble to yourself in the recognition of your goddamn pride that you actually matter in this fucking world. You're just a blip on the radar. The only world you matter in is yours. To you. Don't make yourself into something of value to an external, because that is a posture, that is an appetite that is so great, it'll drive you to the grave. It'll give you an experience of rot, trying to hold up that avatar. Okay? Now remember these things. This is what transcendence does. It may take you 3 or 4 years to get through all of you, to become clean, and then to have a world in front of you, to no matter what choice you feel, there will never be present a second choice. There will never be a debate in your mind anymore. There will never be a judgment of a better or a worse decision. There will never have a regret in your life about what you've done, because you don't harbor those truths any longer as a way to interpret reality, because you know them to the point of transcendence. you become them. Okay? Let me see. We wrote down some of the stuff, and number 7, I think, is where we left off with 6 last week. Write down your most valued belief defines them. Yes. Number 7, think back past the past week. Write down examples of specific moments where you felt a choice of any of the 4 virtues. Okay? The observer, well in place, will recognize its emotions and have an opportunity to be patient, have an opportunity to surrender, have an opportunity to allow, have an opportunity to own. When you recognize what you do, you're in an argument. You have a confrontation about something, and you well up, and your anger or your justification or your control takes over. But the observer is well in place because you've been honing that skill set. And then you recognize in that moment, oh, wait a minute. I see myself. This is an opportunity for at least let's be patient and allow this other person to speak. Let's hear him out. And you might feel the absolute welling up inside of you, or that uncontrollable urge to speak up and interrupt them so you can be right. So you can have the control back that you matter. Okay, you're going to feel that urge. The master will allow it to pass through, but will never act on it. You'll let it come up, but you'll know what it is, and you'll allow it to pass through you. And you let the other person speak because you're not in a contest with the outside any longer. It's not about who's better, who's worth, when you can't compare to yourself. There's one creator in all of the universes, one. And that's you. That's what you got to start thinking going forward. Don't put others around you as a value over yourself. The highest act of love, always and ever shall be, to love yourself. The others are just versions of humanity. They're the human experience. But when you love one, you must love all, because the all is the one. That's what it is. That's why you learn the laws. To understand these concepts as you move yourself forward. Yeah. So, we want you to look at your day-to-day life and notice your interactions. When you have, everyone's going to have a trifle, something that's, look, you're set in your ways. And then we get upset because something came along and gave you a turbulence or a rift in your setness, which is humans strive to keep things controlled and set because we're afraid of the upheaval. Why do you think humanity's in the middle of an upheaval right now? Well, because it's the time to see, where do we want to go as a collective? We must represent what we are not. We are not division. We are not hate. We are not separation. We are not controls. We are not victims. But we're representing that. We're representing enslavement once again. We're representing atrocities once again at the highest levels. Corruption and all these things going on is a representation so everyone can be honest with themselves and say, this is my co-creation reflective. It's not me unless I choose to enact in that. If I choose to side on division, if I choose to be corrupt, if I choose to do those things, then I will enable those truths inside of me. Not wrong. Not wrong. Not wrong. Never, ever, ever wrong. Because there's no judge, there's no jury, there's no prosecution, there's no defense, because it's only you in your world, and you're attracting a reflection for a particular experience in any given now that's going to happen forever. The only thing it's going to do, it's going to change. It's not wrong what you're doing. It's not wrong what anyone's doing. But when you know something is different inside of you, you become an ability to respond, which some might take as a responsibility, but it's not. It's an ability to respond, to be a different person and represent a different frequency among a collective of lost gods who have lost their way in the land of the lost, separation. And light bearers come and offer a certain idea that reflects back to the person. We're not saviors. We're not ideas of change. We just represent ideas. Change must be chosen by each individual. What do humans do? What do? They force change. Do you know something as an understanding of humans' ability of change? For 10 generations, a child is born, and that child has a child, and that child has a child, and that child has a child. And it goes down for 10 generations. That's how long the Crusades slaughtered the Middle East. Generation after generation, the Crusades slaughtered 10 generations. 10 generations. 10 generations of people. Not one family. Millions of families. That changed the entire scope of the reality, didn't it? It's not wrong. See, that's representation. They killed 4 million Jews. Representation. Then, under the Christ conscience Puritan, they killed 400 million Native Americans. It's representation. We keep choosing the division. And we get this. This is what we get. Unless we choose different. You can't fix what's outside. How many laws can there be? How many more enforcement of their laws that will be corrupt by the ones in power to enforce to their agenda? It doesn't work that way. Give up on the outside. And the kingdom of heaven lies within. You must recognize within you are the division. Hence, you must take down the division and represent change. That's what's going on. Humanity need a big, healthy dose of look where we're at. Here's an opportunity to see within ourselves a different path going forward. One that's not divided, one that's unified. It's so simple, but it's going to take 1,000 years, at least 1,000 years to get this collective to understand itself. First, you got to deconstruct religion, and that's going to take 300 or 400 years. But there's every point, every seed, every idea offers. It doesn't matter until it's taken in by another and it matters to them. Your work doesn't matter to them. Your work matters to you. You are here to ascend you, enlighten you. Become a hero to yourself. Become your biggest fan. To offer the highest, most vibrational expression of authentic light. Okay? So that observer well in place will understand and recognize this is my kingdom. I only feel it. If I attach myself to another due to the processes of addiction, dependency on ideology of connection, family, friends, siblings, kids, workers, lovers, all of those are very valid, very experiential. But when you recognize it in yourself, It becomes your ability to transcend that, so you allow yourself the freedom from the bindings of externalism, which will change your behavior and maintain a vibrational truth that allows that reoccurrence until you see it and choose different, Master. No universe changes in a cycled idea of time until the change is chosen by the creator, perceiver, subjective truth, you. So look at your truths. Make sure you understand your virtues. Begin to exercise and recognize them. So on the immediacy of that recognition, you can see within your kingdom, this is an opportunity. I have an ability to change in this moment and to become something beyond myself. Instead of the rhetoric of left and right, good and bad, yes and no, whites and blacks, yin and yang, opposition, dualistic nature of humanity must be broken by representation only. Never force. Force will only beget one side to become stronger than the other, and the times will cycle. The same times that we as men and women have exchanged who leads the world in the idea of gender for countless times on countless earths. One will always control and dominate the other, and the power will sway back and forth, until someone shows there is no division. There is only the purity of unconditional possibilities, of experience. Smitty, you have something to say?
I think it's important to note that you can change your relationship with the things in your life without necessarily giving up the things in your life. Because I remember when I was first going through this, feeling like I would have to give up relationships. But for me, it didn't end up being that. It was changing my relationship with those things. And so all of those people and all of those relationships are still in my life, but I relate to them differently. So I just
Yes.
want to say that.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, don't let your ego mind think of change as loss. It's just cultivating a new relationship. Some people looked at their marriages going through this, and some people split, some people were honest with each other and cultivated the marriages to a different place. The relationship with their employer. Some people left and went on to better things, and some people made their jobs better because they start being a person that they were never allowed to be, but they didn't realize the power of authenticity, start changing the versions of people around them, because it's a co-created world, yes, but it is a subjective world on your individual earth. And you will understand through time, if people don't change with you, they will disappear. Sometimes you leave and move to better, because that vibrational co-created entity made up of a conglomeration of an employer and its values and employees is no longer your vibration. So this magical little world comes in for you. You have to trust the now, follow your heart, and never look back. Never doubt, never give in, never, ever, ever compromise with your authentic will, ever. Do your best, and you will never lose anything. Okay, so let's look at those ideas as you're doing this week. Remember, review your virtues, recognize them inside of you. Okay? Now, number 8, I want you to understand I want you to understand the fullness of the unconditional. Okay? The unconditional means unconditional. People think I understand unconditional, but they don't, because they're looking at it still from a conditioned perspective. So you have to look at what the world does, what the world is. Go find your pain in the world. It'll be really easy for all of you to find pain in your world, and realize that pain is an interpretation of what is no longer valuable to you. Okay, it's one man's trash is another man's treasure. Some people like these worlds. Some people think they're horrific. Got it. We have preferences. I'll talk about preferences later, but we're talking an emotional relationship. Okay? And you have to look at that and realize that's allowed. That's allowed. No one's going to say that's right or wrong. Humans might. There might be consequences for actions. Murder, rape, corruption, lying, cheating, stealing, thievery, robbery, all these things that humans portray in division, birthed out of lack, of course. We get these ideas and we get these divisions and we get these, experiences, right? So, but they're all allowed. So I want you to get on board with your own things that say that shouldn't be there. I don't want you to have a resistance. I want you to have a preference. Of course, you will never lose your preference, but you're never going to object to what's happening around you because it's not your business. You don't participate in those worlds that you do not prefer. That is your idea. You're not going to escape the co-creation of humanity right now. You're on the ascending timeline. You're not going to magically wisp off to another world, create an entire new history with your memory, and not even know you're on the ascending. You're going to stay right here because this is what you're interested in. This is an attraction for you. So on this ascending Earth timeline, this co-created is representing the division. You have to understand where to place your value in the idea of choice. Okay? And those ideas will lead you to a vibrational relationship of change that'll make your world more harmonious with your day-to-day idea of activities. Yet, the outside world, the co-creation, is still going to have its things that are not your preferences. Make sure they're preferences, not hates, not whys, not victimizations. I don't like the world. I don't like what we do to each other. When you understand it from such a clear perspective, none of this is my preference. This whole game is now understood. And all of it is just a game in a dirty sandbox from the consideration of my understanding of the relationship. Dirty is not a good or bad, but I've played with all the sand. Okay? So you'll understand those aren't your preferences anymore. But you'll understand that they're allowed. Right? Just think of any atrocity. You have 1,000 of them to choose from. Human sex trafficking goes on every day. Millions of people every day. It's a business, and nobody fixes it. You got these little task force wars on drugs. You know what they have? They have a job. That's it. So they can get a paycheck so they can feed their family. As a human's relationship, playing out worlds. As long as there is an appetite for that, creation is not going to say no. Do you get that? No matter how wrong you think it is, it's going to continue. Why? Because there is an appetite for it. Someone wants to experience that. So creation says, okay, here you go. Hence the world. Hence the world happening. All of this, everything. That's what's happening in separation. You have to create a kingdom. You'll understand what is a preference. You'll understand that's not my world. No, thank you. You'll understand as you go forward how to make your world very fucking small. Incredibly small, and make it small. Don't be busy holding up your identities to the world. Start cutting off of these ideas. You will see that they were just feeding you, feeding your ego to give you life as an identity, as a purpose, as something to be counted on, something to be valued by others, by the external, an appetite for validation. You'll understand these. You'll start to cut these ideas off and you'll shut your world down. Don't worry, you're not going to get lonely. You'll never be alone in your own universe, I swear. You're the only one there, but you'll never be lonely in that world. You might be alone with one point of view, but you'll be filled with the consciousness of you, the understanding of you. Okay? So that transcendence work that we do is leaving this perspective, allowing the unconditional to be understood as an experience, but then giving you the fortitude to point the direction of your kingdom with an authentic choice of an unknown God, unknown to you, the fractal. And where your vibrational authentic tells you to move the ship, and you follow intuition, not logic, not reason, not responsibility, not obligation, not what you think is best, because not that. All of that is crap, trash, all of it, every ounce of it. The heart will sing, and that's where you go. Despite where the ego is going to claim, that's not where you go. Because. This might. Fear. Loss. And then you're enslaved again to the division. You got to be a master and recognize. So look at those ideas of the unconditional happening around you every day. And work on those ideas of conditionings that you recognize in the immediacy of rights and wrongs. By nature, we don't do this stuff by nature. We do it as an experience of nature, of what's possible, because nature is by nature unconditional. Okay? Never forget the unconditional. Learn it. Learn it in your heart. Yes. Okay. Their exercises, write down examples of previous conditions in your past which now are considered unconditional. Do this during the week and go back to that. Okay? Things that happened to you that were violent. I've had violence in my life, happened to me. Okay? It was very horrific at the time, and now I understand it. It's not horrific. It's an unconditional now. I have no more relationship that would be human to that action, that moment of my life. I understand it's not my preference anymore. This is a world that I no longer want to play in, because it's not my vibrational truth to continue the versions of reality that are available to me as a co-created human, because I've transcended them. You will get there. You will understand these enlightenments as you do this work. It's going to take you a few years. Don't be a hero and think you're going to get it in a couple of days. That's your ego talking to you. You have to be surrendered to every moment. Be meek, shall inherit the earth. Allow yourself to see. That's the quickness with the virtues that I've given you. You will see it better and more clearly with those ideas well in place, with the observer well in place, with courage and trust and the choice of the unknown self well in place. Live a little. Take a chance on yourself. You're only going to find greatness. All right? So in number 8, write down the examples of previous conditions in the past, and which now you consider unconditional after you do some of this work about the condition. Okay? Now assess with brutal honesty, and what this takes brutal honesty. Assess with brutal honesty the identity you are now. Write down the beliefs you still have. Okay? Take any incident in the last week and watch your reactions to them. Recognize the identities in those reactions. They might be justified by your ego, and they're definitely not wrong. This isn't about right and wrong. That's what humans teach you. This is about recognition and choosing a different self to transcend the self that you've been. So you no longer experience those reactionary selves. Okay? Identity of control, identity of need, identity of purpose, identity of excusing through reasons why your actions or another's is justified. These are all things to look at. The easiest one to recognize is fear, because fear is all around us. We're afraid the day we get here because we don't know who we are. 1 minute we're eternal beings with a quadzillion lifetimes under our belt, and we understood each and every one of them. We were each and every one of them. We understand fully each and every one of them, and then all of a sudden gone. And I think Seth put it best. You're this enormous, uncontainable being of light, and you squashed yourself into a pinhead. It is atrociously uncomfortable. And that's this experience. No choice, masters, is wrong, and no choice is right. Every choice you make is yours. If it is a slipstream choice, then you understand the truth of you going in that direction. If it is a resistant choice, then the opportunity to understand yourself as change has now arisen. And you choose now the unknown self, so you may transcend that belief through the virtues we've taught you, the surrender and ownership. Choosing different allows what? Abraham 101. I'm not going to keep focusing. Energy follows awareness, right? Abraham 101. Energy follows awareness. I'm not going to focus on this self anymore. I'm not going to react like this anymore. I'm not going to make myself feel good because I'm smart, and I'm going to talk about myself like I'm great and be comparative anymore. I get that. I'm enough without the fanfare. And you'll learn these things. So write down the belief systems you still have. Write down the rights and wrongs. Be humble to yourself. Be honest with yourself. So you have an opportunity to return to the unconditional while you're walking upright on this planet. It's not an experience of a must. There's no obligation. You've stumbled upon another choice. Whether you do it or not is irrelevant. Why? Because no one's going to judge you. Why? Because there's no one to judge you. There's no one else. Whatever you create in your head is a perspective. It's called a fractal identity that's separated. The truth of separation is what that is. That's it. That's the only one that can possibly judge you. But guess what? It's not you. It's the experience of you as a chosen, let's say, incarnation of separation to give you that experience. So you can feel judged. Humans will judge you. But nothing comes into your door unless you open it. No one shits on your porch unless you allow them. Okay? Look at those things, masters. Brutal honesty this week. Observe yourself this week as best you can. Surrender to the recognition of yourselves. Be humble. Let it burn. Let it be embarrassed. Let the anxiety build. Let it flow through you. Become what you came to do. Feel the idea of separation. Not avoid it through one side or the other. That's enabling it. You must become it to transcend it. Total acceptance of a recognition of a belief. Be immersed in the emotional experience when you recognize a belief system. That's why we want you to write these things down. Recognize it and be immersive to it. Just say, wow, look at me. I'm the one that's nuts here. I'm crazy about this. I'm angry about this. I know in every reasonable facet that person is wrong, but I'm angry at that person for being the unconditional. Okay? That's not right. It still feels like shit. Good. Let it feel like shit. Get what you came to get. Feel like shit, for God's sakes. Don't bandage it up. Don't make it go away. Take it into your heart. Immerse yourself into feeling like shit so you can become the growth of you. The experience in your ownership will allow you to grow through that vibrational truth of experience, what's possible in creation. And then you'll know. And when you'll know, the unknown comes. The doors will open. Okay. Let's see, emotion, real life ideas, we've got that. We covered that one good, I think. Are there any questions so far on the processes I'm offering tonight? Yes, no. Yoko. Okay. Okay, and number 10. It says, after identifying your current beliefs, write down how you feel about yourself. You know what that's going to do? It's going to offer you recognition of more beliefs. It's going to offer you the bad and the good that you harbor as a truth. Nothing in your universe is false. Everything is true. When you feel a particular way, it's because it's true to you. It is a value of a vibration that you've taken in as a way to experience, and that's the fractal coveting we talked way back at the beginning. Coveting belief systems that give you the identity you've built. So if you're feeling a particular way about something, then you're recognizing your beliefs. I don't care if they're good or bad. I want you to feel your good parts. I want you to take them in. I want you to not try to get more of them like everyone does. I just want you to own what feels good. Because when you feel the unconditional, you're going to realize good was just as conditioned as bad. Okay? So you'll learn that. So write down how you feel about that. Write down that. About what you found brutally honest. And then write down how you feel that you're angry or you're controlling. If is it upsetting? Good. I'm upset about it. I'm happy about it. I feel good about it. Find if you feel pride, write it down. I feel proud. I'm accomplished. I've achieved. How many times do you brag about your resume? How many times do you compare your paychecks? What do you do with yourself? Watch yourself every day. Observe, observe, observe so you can recognize this is the way you create your world. Nobody else is doing it to you. It's all about relationships. Seth 101. Everything is relationship. What is the key virtue when it comes to law of attraction? Is number 11. What is the key virtue? You can consider the 4 virtues of transcendence. What's the key one when it comes to law of attraction? This is up to you. This is not a standard answer. There is no standard answers. There's only subjective truths. You got to get used to being your own kingdom. That the only one that's ever been in charge is you. You give your ideas up to a reason of another person or to a cause or effect of you, but it's still you creating and choosing a truth. Okay? We have to know that. We have to know that in your heart. So the transcendence that we've discussed here and this idea. This week, go at it. Create that great observer. Be the neutral of yourself. Observe the shit. Be brutally honest. Write down what you recognize in yourself. Be the lab technician that is observing, the scientist, the mad scientist that notices everything about itself, no matter how much it hurts to see that in yourself. Let it hurt. Don't ever block anything to the best of your ability. Let everything flow through you so you may know that you are God. And you will. If you do this, you'll know you're God. You'll never believe it again. You'll never doubt it. You'll never hope for it. You'll know it. And that knowing will take you to worlds beyond measure. As this perspective, you will no longer be an outfit in the closet, a coat on a hanger long forgotten because you were out of style or you understood it and you no longer are that. You won't be forgotten. You won't be an experience of the past. You'll be God, your new self. You'll do that for yourself. Any questions, anyone? Christina didn't come. Everyone good then? All right, we'll discuss these ideas next week. Do your homework, come up with some ideas. If you don't come up with any answers if I ask for volunteers, you don't have to. Someone will speak up, no worries, and we'll go over some of the materials so we can better become acquainted with transcendence is key. The next class next month is the idea of vibrational tactician. That's learning to speak a different language, not English or Japanese or Chinese or Dutch or German. It's to speak the language of vibration. That's what the universe speaks. You start to understand frequency in a relationship to tone frequency. Those ideas in yourself, vibration. Okay? So do this work this week. Observe yourself every single day the best you can. Every hour the best you can. But be neutral. Don't let your mind criticize. When your mind's criticizing, let it criticize, but don't jump on board and stop it from criticizing. If you're too lazy, you shouldn't have that second donut. Anything. You should be doing something. Oh, this is the way that I have to make dinner every night. The pressures of everyday routines. Watch them all, every single thing. You don't necessarily change things. You just change your relationship, but the action becomes more godly.